Welcome to Movie of the Week. This is Rebecca Martin, organizer and founder of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. Thank you for listening to our CFLX Movie of the Week podcast sampler. And you can subscribe to our podcast by searching on iTunes CFLX312, and that stands for Chicago Film Lover Exchange. 312 is the Chicago area code. So remember, CFLX312. Enjoy.
It's like an overture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like interesting.
Yeah. He is announcing that this is an epic story. Mm-hmm. That this is going to be something that's metaphorical, mm-hmm. that has grand themes. Mm-hmm. And it's so assured. Yeah. It's so confident. Just starting with the meta moment of the title of the film on a marquee in this world that we're visiting.
Yeah.
And then this very fluid, I think it might be 3 or 4 minute long tracking shot that has not a single edit, that just moves through this nightclub. Mm-hmm. It evokes, the beginning of Orson Welles' Touch of Evil,
yes.
where the camera's moving yes. through all of these, different environments. It introduces you to all the characters. It has elements of Scorsese's Goodfellas, of course.
You can say that sort of Burt Reynolds, any character like his character is sort of an opportunist, and that's to be expected. But he really cared about Dirk, and he accepts him back with open arms. They were such an odd family, but
yes.
and that's one of the big themes mm-hmm. of the movie, I think, it was about creating these families for yourself when you don't have one to go home to.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
And
he's very much in control of all aspects of the
right.
film. Like, you mm-hmm. know that it is Quentin Tarantino's film, and he is here to make it his film. Whereas some directors sort of, I would say, take more of a backseat and kind of let the magic happen itself. But not that Tarantino forces it or anything. It's just that he has a very specific way that he wants things done. But he's also, I feel like he's an actor's director, where he kind of understands and appreciates character actors, appreciates those sort of, because he sees so many films, he must have his pet favorites, and he brings, I think, great things out of character actors, and I think that they really enjoy working with him, and I think that he, at the same time being very Tarantino-y, mm-hmm. he gets great things out of people
most
on
assuredly.
Their own.
Well,
yeah, and I would also make the argument, Rebecca, you mentioned sort of at the beginning of the podcast that there really wasn't a romance aspect to the film, but I think there is something in the relationship between the bride and Bill mm-hmm. that is complex and interesting. She is killing the father of her child, despite the fact that he's a murderous bastard who shot her in the head. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of love and obsession. Bill has this sort of strange hold on the women. It's shown in the way he interacts with Elle Driver,
right? Mm-hmm.
And it's shown in the way he interacts with Sophie, the Sophie character.
Yeah.
And it's implied in his relationship to the other assassins as well.
Yeah.
So, there's something about their romantic past and the fact that, she's killing to get revenge, but she's also, like, destroying, for lack of a better word,
right.
the love of her life. And that's an interesting...
Yeah,
they're like the Horcruxes, and he's like Voldemort.
Yeah. Nice.
Things that make them who they are and makes them dysfunctional.
Right.
And I like how that's like how we're introduced to them, like characters and, who's playing who. And
I think what's interesting is when you're introduced to them as kids, you also see them as adults, and they're still wearing the same things that you recognize as being childhood hallmarks for them.
It's very identifiable.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting sort of at the end of the movie when some people shed the things that
Right.
They shed their childhood in a quite literal way, but also in a metaphor.
Utilized her femininity as a kind of Black Widow figure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, in the very beginning, she's kind of like in the high street stores and she's picking out quite purposefully, I feel, like a short skirt and like a little jacket and like testing out lipstick. So I feel like she knows that she's going to be subjectified by males. Like they're going to look at her and think, oh yeah, you know, I want to get involved with that. But she's using it to her advantage. So in a way, it's kind of like a powerful,
right.
Like she's aware that she's going to be objectified, and
right.
that's the point. She's using it to her advantage,
and it
was never very hard for her to pick up men, basically.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of flips it a little, whereas she's aware of it. She's not kind of like, you know, diminishing it.
Right,
But,
it's not the director who's taking control per se. It's more her embodying like control of that character, and her making the moves like consciously that she can use her sexuality for
her own gains.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And you know, for all of Kubrick's meticulousness, the use of the classical music was kind of accidental. He had actually asked this modern musician to create this sort of like atonal score, which is used in certain sections near the end, but he wasn't pleased with the way that the spaceship footage was matching up with it. So while he was temporarily editing it, he put on the classical music as like what they call a temp track.
Oh,
and
I didn't know that.
as it got later and later and closer to the release date, he just felt that it was working better than the modern atonal composition.
Right.
So he kept the classical music in, and it completely makes it.
Yeah, coming of age stories in Hollywood or in films get such a weird cliched rap to them, and like the whole like young girl finding herself and discovering herself usually is sort of like this twee idea. And this, like, she's the girl who plays her, Katie Jarvis, no acting experience. Their casting director, like, found her arguing with her boyfriend in a subway platform somewhere, a tube platform somewhere. And the anger that just comes off of her, it's real. You can feel
raw.
How, like, raw.
Yeah.
It's exactly the word. And I feel like this really is a true coming of age. You really feel her go through some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a...
It's very... That's the thing about it. It feels like a very authentic film.
There's an authentic, almost autobiographical documentary feel that's absolutely a conscious artistic choice. The cinematography is all handheld camera. Yeah. There's a kind of intensity that matches her intensity of emotion, like, you know, one can feel as a teenager where everything is life and death, and the most, you know, the you know, someone saying something badly about you at school has, you know, an importance that is more important than anything else in the universe. And the fact that she, you know, she's just so angry all the time and so unhappy, but there is a kind of beautiful bruised sensitivity in her that she is really, you know, afraid of showing, but comes out despite herself.
Yeah,
and that
for sure.